Karen. Yeah. Good evening, folks. Welcome to tonight's City Council meeting and Committee of the Whole meeting. The City Council meeting is called to order. I kindly ask our City Clerk to please take the roll call.
Bowering.
Here.
Bruno.
Here.
Ruby. Kilberg.
Ruby
Here.
here.
Oh, got it. Kasserag.
Here.
Maladra.
Here.
Marks.
Here.
Mayor.
Here.
Paschke.
Here.
Swanson.
Here. We begin the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, folks, with a special guest, Riley Dennett. Riley, would you kindly lead us in the pledge? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Riley. Ladies and gentlemen, before we jump into our business this evening, as indicated in an email I sent to all of you, I'd like to ask the council and the community who is joining us live, and perhaps those tuning in as well, to begin tonight's meeting with a moment of reflection and silence to honor Geneva's 25th mayor, Howard Smith. Howard Smith's portrait hangs here at City Hall, directly above Director Timoshenko, her right shoulder. Howie Smith was a 1942 graduate of Geneva High School, set the mile record at Geneva High School at that time, became the youngest mayor at age 32, served from 1957 to 1961. Howie, as he was known, called Geneva his home his entire life. To his son Barry, his son Randy, and his daughter Karen, who I had the pleasure of visiting with at the remembrance service, appreciate us lowering the flag to honor Howie, and of course our moment of silence this evening. So with that, just take a moment, folks. Thank you very much. Riley, are you ready for this? Ladies and gentlemen, item 3A is to recognize Riley Dennett, the International Swimming Federation USA swim team member. Riley, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Now, Riley, we've had a conversation. I've had multiple conversations with Mom. You're a 7th grader at Middle School South.
Correct.
You said school's going well.
Yep.
You have a huge crowd here tonight. Do you want to introduce all your special guests?
I have my mom, my grandma, grandpa, my dad, my sister Mackenzie, my grandma, grandpa, and my Aunt Betty and Uncle Jake.
Do you want to tell the story about the grandparents pulling in, asking where the heck do you park for this thing? True story, right, Grandma and Grandpa? Well, your mom and dad, and of course Mackenzie, and everyone here are obviously your biggest fans. Your mom, you may know this, your mom sent an email out regarding your extraordinary accomplishment for making this team.
Yes.
I connected with Mom. I asked Mom if I could send you a note. She said, yes, I sent you a note. And then she's kept us informed as to all your excitement in Brazil. Do you want to share with us what this is all about? Because we have some photos up here of you competing, which I think is pretty cool. Mom granted us permission to put these up. So you are 12?
Correct.
12
yeah,
years old. And you're traveling around the world to compete in swimming.
Yes.
That's intense, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the schools provide you that time off to compete.
Yes.
Isn't that awesome?
Definitely.
I can almost tell, well, not by that, but okay, what race is this right here?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Probably 200 free.
So what's your discipline? What's your specialty?
Probably freestyle and backstroke. Definitely.
No kidding. Who do you look up to most?
Probably definitely my teammates and Leah Hayes. She went to the Junior Olympics and she's on my swim team. So yeah, definitely her as well.
And is Miss Hayes competing for the Olympic qualifiers soon?
I believe so.
That was in the papers today, I believe. Yeah. So ultimately, your goal is?
To just continue to swim and
Yeah.
to improve as much as I can.
And why swimming? What motivated you first time to jump in the pool and say, I like this?
I don't know. It's just always stuck, and I've just always been doing it. So it's life would feel different without it.
I bet. And do you also participate in other sports?
Yes, I am in cross country right now for school.
are?
Yeah.
You know, Mr. McCready, two down from me, used to be the assistant coach at Geneva High School.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you ran cross country too, right?
Once upon a time.
Yeah, once upon a time.
They did call it running.
They did call it running. Well, that's cool. So during the off-season, you're running cross country.
Yes.
But cross country is also now.
Yes, correct.
So you're doing both.
Yes.
And how's your new principal doing?
He's doing great.
Yeah. Do you have to do homework?
Yes.
Do you want us to send a resolution to him?
I would appreciate that.
So you bring all your homework with you.
Mm-hmm.
You're competing overseas and around the world.
Correct.
And you're keeping all your grades up. What's the secret to balancing all that?
Well, I mean, there's not really a secret at all, but I mean, I just try to get it done as much as I can and
Yeah.
try to be responsible with all my work. So, yeah.
Do you have a favorite subject?
Probably math or science. Those definitely, yeah, I definitely enjoy those.
Does that link into what you might want to do?
No, not really.
No? Just swim and call it a day?
Yeah.
And how did you, I know it was a heck of a strong competition in the international, the ISF contest that you participated in. You did well?
Yes.
Proud of yourself?
Yes, definitely.
That's all that matters. I know Mom and Dad and
Yeah.
Mackenzie and everyone else are very proud of you too. Anything you want to share about that experience? And I have a quick, who traveled with you?
My mom.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Just that it was definitely an experience I'll never forget, and I'm very thankful to go, and I'm just thankful for all my coaches and teammates, and definitely my family for all the support they've given me, and just, yeah, just all of them really helped me get through this and stuff.
Do you trade pins at these events too?
Yes,
You do
yes.
trade pins? Okay, and you have a whole bunch you came home with?
Yes.
Awesome. Did you stay in dorms? Did you stay in a village?
A hotel.
A hotel? Life is good.
Yes.
Do you have free meals in the morning?
Yes.
Now, prior to a race, what's your psychology?
Definitely just stay focused, and I'm definitely like warming up and stretching and just focusing on my race, but I try to tune stuff out that like I don't need to be thinking about at the moment.
Do you tune it out by listening to music?
No, I just
No.
kind of just sit there and think and stretch all at once, yeah.
Are you one of the rare athletes that don't have the earbuds in?
Sometimes I do have it in, pretty rarely though, but most times I'm not really listening to that.
Well, that's interesting. Wow. So, what's next this year? So you're swimming, running, occasional homework?
I don't know, I mean, I do triathlon in the summer as well.
Oh, of course you do. That's great. Are you going to compete this summer too?
Yes, probably.
Locally or?
I don't know, I mean, there is nationals, it depends if I go or not, but yeah, I'll probably attend that,
You know, we had two Geneva kids who competed at the Olympic Games in triathlon.
yeah.
Wow. What is your message to the younger athletes who see you as a example?
Just never give up and really put your mind to it. And even if you don't like feel like you're doing anything or if you don't see a future, just keep trying and definitely push yourself.
And you're wearing the official team jacket.
Yes.
You get a good swag bag, don't you?
Yeah,
You
definitely.
get some good, you get some good stuff. Is it all framed at home? Do you have everything framed?
No,
Do you have a special room dedicated to you?
no.
No? What the heck, man?
Sorry.
So, wow. I understand you live in an interesting neighborhood near Maladra.
Yes,
Is
correct.
that right?
Yes, correct.
Are you aware of this gentleman?
Yes.
Are you? Anything you want to share about the neighborhood that we could help you with?
No.
No, you're good? Mom? No? Any other, I have a special gift for you as well, and I'm going to open it up now to the council members in case they have any questions or comments for you. And the floor is open. Yes, Mr. Bruno, or excuse me, Alderperson Bruno.
Just a quick question. What is your resting heart rate?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Right now it wouldn't be fair because I know you're nervous.
Yes, definitely.
Your preference in swimsuit, do you have a preference?
Definitely tight, but not too tight. So, I mean,
What about brand?
probably TYR. Yeah.
And that's really come up in the last few years.
Yes.
I mean, it's eclipsed the Speedos and everybody else in the world.
Yeah.
And are those expensive?
Not really.
Oh, they're
No.
not?
I mean, definitely on the higher end, but
Oh, yes? Okay, Mom, how much?
She's 12 and under, so they cannot wear the expensive ones yet.
Oh, is that
When
right?
she turns 13, they're mighty expensive.
And mighty expensive is $500?
600, 700.
Fudge. You know, if you go to Kohl's,
They're not at Kohl's.
no, not Kohl's, sorry. Mr. Kilbrick.
I just wondered if your parents might have had a premonition as it relates to your name. Do you know who Riley Gaines is?
no, I'm not familiar.
Oh, okay, then there probably isn't a connection. But she was a very successful U.S. Olympic swimmer, probably before you were born, and I think she went to the University of Kentucky. But Riley Gaines stood on the podium at the Olympics several times with the U.S. swimming for women. So you got a good first name. Now, check into her, and I think setting some goals and hopefully getting to the same point that she did with her career, that would be a lofty goal, but one I'm sure that you can achieve. Good luck.
And most importantly, you're still having fun.
Yes,
Right?
correct. Yes.
And you seem like an extraordinarily mature young lady. You know when you're not having fun, you might have to tweak something, right?
Yes, correct.
Mom told me she played, soccer and
Basketball.
basketball. Went to Rosary High School, grew up in Batavia, right? Mm-hmm. Hear that?
I did.
You hear that? Yeah.
Sorry, though.
Dad, how about you?
I grew up in Carroll Street.
Any sports?
Not really.
Join the crowd, man. Anything else, Riley, you want to share with us before I present you with just a token of our
I think I'm good. Thank
appreciation? You good?
Yep.
So what are you doing tomorrow? Anything fun?
Just school.
Just school.
Yep. Just cross-country practice.
cross-country
Oh,
practice.
I have a cross-country meet, yeah.
Oh, you do? Where's the meet?
Batavia, Rotolo, yes.
Oh, Rotolo. Oh, yeah, sure. How far is the course?
2 miles.
2 miles. And what's your best time on a 2-mile course?
Oh, 12:16, about that.
Nice. That's how long it took your grandparents to find a spot tonight. As you head to school tomorrow, I hope you'll take this special gift with you. This is on behalf of the entire City Council. It reads, "The City of Geneva is proud to congratulate and honor Riley Dinette on her achievement at the International School Sports Federation Swim Championship at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, August 2023. By the power invested in me as mayor of the City of Geneva, I hereby proclaim September 19th as Riley Dinette Day in the City of Geneva." May I give this to you?
Of course, thank you.
With this certificate, you know what this means?
No.
Skip school. Come on over here, get a picture. There you go. Look at that. This is our former cross-country runner. Former.
Come on up.
Oh, I guess I can.
Close enough security.
Sure you get at least 15.
Right?
Yep.
Thank you.
Mackenzie? Take care of these people.
Okay,
Promise?
yeah,
And tell Mary I say hi.
all right, I will.
She still owes me money.
We'll get it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Be safe.
you.
No, I know they did. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for allowing Riley that opportunity to be recognized. Item 4, amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments this evening? Item 5 is the omnibus agenda. All items marked with an asterisk are considered to be routine by this council, and those items with an asterisk can be considered and voted upon with one motion. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Alderperson Bruno makes the motion. Alderperson Mayor makes the second. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Bruno,
Aye.
Ruby,
Ruby, aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Kasserag,
Aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks,
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
Paschke,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bowering.
Aye.
With a vote of 10 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 absent, the omnibus agenda has been approved by this council. We jump to item 8, municipal bills for payment. We kindly ask our city clerk to please read the bills in their aggregate for our consideration.
Municipal bills for payment total $5,439,528.25.
Mayor, I move that we approve and pay the bills as read. The individual items that add up to that amount can be found in tonight's city council packet on the city website.
Alderperson Bruno makes the motion to pay the bills as presented, which are available in each council member's packet and on the city's website. That is seconded by Alderperson Kasserag. Thanks. Oh, I have been practicing. Anyone? If not, roll call, please.
Bruno,
Aye.
Ruby,
Ruby, aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Kasserag,
Aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks,
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
Paschke,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bowering.
Aye.
The municipal bills for payment have been approved with 10 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 0 absent. Committee of the whole items of business begin with item 9A, consider resolution number 2023-97, authorizing the acceptance of proposal from Berglund Construction to perform repairs to the South First Street retaining wall in an amount not to exceed $74,250. Is there, Alderperson Bowering? Seconded by Alderperson Paschke. Mr. McCready, do we have a summary for this tonight in absence of Stephanie, or?
Yes, you have a
Great.
brief summary.
Yes, sir.
On November 16th, 2022, a city-owned retaining wall was damaged in a hit-and-run accident along the south side of South First Street. The wall is outside the state of Illinois right-of-way, but within the city easement. As the wall is historic, it requires specific expertise for repair. A restoration plan was developed and a request for proposals was issued. One qualified proposal from Berglund Construction of Chicago was received and is attached. In order to begin repair to the wall, the recommendation is to accept the proposal included and a 10% contingency for any unforeseen field changes that may occur. In follow-up to previous meetings, a supplemental claim has been submitted to the city's insurance carrier for a review. Any costs not covered by insurance will be covered using the Capital Infrastructure Fund. And we continue to be in contact and reach out to our insurance carrier for further guidance and updates on that process. And joining us in the audience tonight is Director Babica, if you have any questions.
Questions for Director Babica? And all of you are well aware that we had some questions prior to the meeting as well, which have been posted. Alderperson Marks.
Mayor, I'm not sure, I don't think this is for Rich Babica, but I was confused by one of the answers with the questions. If this was if a resident had to fix this wall, would it have had to go to historic preservation or not? I thought it would have, but it seems from the answer in the question, the walls, like fences, are not covered by the historic preservation. Does anyone know that answer?
Yeah.
Oh,
Apologies, I think Director Babica can provide some insight to that question.
I didn't think it was going to be you, Rich, but I just confused by the answer.
Yeah, it has to do with the pulling of the permit. Yeah. Exactly.
Sorry, I didn't understand if it required historic preservation.
It's a public asset, so it doesn't fall under the purview of the building department. If it was private property, it would require a building permit, which would then trigger the HPC process.
The HPC process does cover fences then also. I thought I
No,
was
it's-
confused by the answer.
It's triggered by a permit issuance by the building department in the historic district.
Okay.
Because this is a public asset, it does not fall within the building department's purview. It falls under the public works purview, which does not require a permit because it's our own property we're working on.
But if it was a residence retaining wall, not a city one, it would have to go in front of the HPC, is that correct?
If it required a permit, yes, that is the threshold moment.
Okay,
It doesn't
got it.
require a permit.
All right,
From the
thank you.
building department.
I was just a little confused, but I
And that
appreciate
structure would have to be street-facing for that to trigger HPC review as well.
Okay, thank you.
As I think Alderperson Bruno could attest to, depending on the nature of the thing, but yeah.
Non-street facing could be staff reviewed.
Anyone else on this item? If not, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Okay, Bowring,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Ruby,
Ruby, nay.
Kilberg, Kussarog,
Aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks,
Nay.
Mayor,
Aye.
Paschke,
Aye.
Swanson.
Aye.
I believe the vote is 7 in favor, 3 against. The motion carries, and this matter has been approved by this council. We jump to item 10, folks, presentation of ordinances and resolutions. 10A is consider resolution number 2023-99, rejecting a bid from Haugland Energy Group LLC for the construction of Geneva Business Park 3 substation. Is there a motion to consider this resolution?
So moved.
Alderperson Marks, Alderperson Bowring, Mr. McCready.
Just note that bids were opened on September 5th, 2023 for this item. One bid was received that was $800,000 more than the engineer's estimate. In light of the price received and the only one bidder responding, staff will rebid the work in anticipation of a better response. And then if there's any follow-up questions, we have Mr. Holton here in the audience tonight. Otherwise, staff recommends approving the item to reject the bid.
The superintendent's here to answer any questions. Additional questions, of course, were provided in the Q&A as submitted and posted on the city's website. The floor is open to the council for any questions. Madam Clerk, please take the roll call.
Marks,
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
Paschke,
Aye.
Swanson,
Aye.
Bowring,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Ruby,
Ruby, aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Kussarog,
Aye.
Maladra.
Aye.
With a vote of 10 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 absent, item 10A has been approved by this council, which is to reject the one bid for this proposed project. Item 10B, consider resolution 2023-100, authorizing the conveyance of certain City of Geneva properties and license agreements to the State of Illinois Department of Transportation.
So moved.
Bowring makes the motion, and Bruno makes the second. Mr. McCready.
Before you is an item regarding the conveyance of City of Geneva properties and license agreements. The City Council via Resolution 2020-54 authorized change order number 1 with Bollinger Lock and Associates to conduct land acquisition services associated with the East State Street reconstruction project. Included within these parcels are 4 parcels owned by the City of Geneva that will either include permanent takings for future right-of-way or 5-year license agreements to allow for the construction of this project. The sum of the 4 parcels includes a taking of 1,607 square feet and license agreements totaling 2,402 square feet. The conveyance documents are currently under review by the city attorney in conjunction with IDOT. Therefore, staff is requesting authorization to proceed by the City Council pending final approval of the city attorney of the conveyance documents. And then joining us this evening is Director Babica for any follow-up questions you may have.
From the council, any questions for Director Babica? Yes, Alderperson Kussarog.
I was just wondering if somebody, one of these 4 people or entities, had an issue with any of our actions, would they still be able to appeal to the city council if we approve this item?
I don't have the answer to that. Do you, Mr. City Attorney? Mr. Babica, based on your experience?
The 4 parcels in question are owned by the City of Geneva outright.
There you go.
So you are the interested parties.
Well, that makes life easy.
For once.
Question answered.
There you go. Anyone else? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Bowering,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Ruby,
Ruby, aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Kasserag,
Aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks,
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
Paschke, Swanson.
Aye.
With a vote of 10 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 absent, item 10B, as in boy, has been approved. Item 10C, consider resolution number 2023-101, accepting the is it quick claim, not quit claim? Should be quick claim, yeah. Quick claim deed from Ruth V. Clapper, Geneva Business Park. Is there a motion? Marks makes the motion and seconded by Kasserag. Mr. McCready.
The City Council, via Resolution 2021-71, authorized the acquisition of necessary parcels related to the Couts Road reconstruction project. During that process, a property owner of one of those parcels voluntarily offered a second parcel within the City of Geneva Business Park to the City of Geneva. Included for your review is a quick claim deed reviewed by the city attorney that conveys this parcel to the City of Geneva. The city has utilities within the parcel, and this conveyance protects those utilities and allows for future expansion of utilities if necessary. And again, we have Director Babica, should there be questions.
Any questions from the council? We have a motion already from Marks and a second by Kasserag. It's a long flight, huh? Clerk Kellick,
All right.
please take the roll.
Marks,
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
Paschke,
Aye.
Swanson. Bowering,
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Ruby,
Ruby, aye.
Kilberg,
Aye.
Kasserag,
Aye.
Maladra.
Aye.
With a vote of 10 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 absent, item 10C has been approved. Let me extend a public apology to Clerk Kellick. Out of habit, I stated Madam Clerk, and I will no longer do that, so forgive me. Clerk Kellick it is. We move on to item 11, public comment. We invite anyone who wishes to address the council to join us at the podium, reminding, of course, you that it's our turn to listen, your turn to share. There will be no debate, no discussion, and no action. Mr. Rule. Yeah.
Evening, everybody. Bring everybody up to speed. Today I had a phone conversation with Mr. McGreedy and Mr. Eastland from Sedgwick. We went through the process of explaining to him, bringing him up to speed where we were. I was hoping, my intent of having this meeting, I did give in to that. I really wanted an in-person meeting, but I did give in to a phone meeting. But my intent all along was to have people there that were decision makers, and apparently that's not the case. I was supposed to get a decision by Friday. Hopefully it will be a positive one. But I have to say I was a little disappointed we didn't get a result today. I did point out to these two individuals I just rode my bike yesterday, found 3 trees on the parkway in the city that are in trouble. Why am I the only one seeing these trees? One of them in particular is on State Street, as dead as a doornail. I pointed it out to this council 4 meetings ago, and it's still standing. Mr. McGreedy sent me an email later on asking me where these particular trees were. I did point out the streets they were on. I didn't have the exact address, but I think he can zero in from there. You guys pay a third party a lot of money to keep an eye on these trees. It ain't happening, folks. I mean, if you want to pay me to do it, I'll do it for probably half of what you're paying them, which is about $18,000, I believe. It's not that hard. But anyway, bottom line is I wanted to bring everybody up to speed because that's where it is right now. If we can't bring this to resolution by Friday, I'll move on to the next step. I don't want to do that, but I will, and that's kind of where we are.
Thank you.
Yep.
To new business, ladies and gentlemen, I know Mr. McCready has something to share. Does anyone else on the council? If so, on the council, you go first. The floor is open. Mr. McCready.
I was just going to mention that we are, or I shouldn't say we, but SPAC, the Strategic Plan Advisory Committee, earlier this month, they launched a public effort to start seeking resident input, stakeholder input to update the city's strategic plan. Which thus far, we've had a very successful process engaging members of the community and stakeholders and focus groups and one-on-one interviews. And now we're entering a key phase where we have our survey that's out there that's open for visitors, students, businesses, stakeholders, anyone in the community to take, with the caveat that beginning this week, every Geneva resident should be receiving a postcard at home with instructions on how to complete an online survey. It can be done in as little as 10 minutes just from your phone. It's very mobile friendly, or via the city's website. But again, every Geneva resident will be getting instructions on how to just complete the survey at home. Survey is open right now and will remain open through October 1st. The other big thing I'd mention too is if you visit the city's website, in addition to the survey, there's some very unique ways to provide input back to the city. We've got, thanks to our Public Works Department, we've got some great mapping capabilities for residents to share different feedback regarding city services, properties, their neighborhoods, anything that comes to mind, as well as some very unique capabilities regarding providing comments via video as well to us. So thanks to some new partnerships we have with our consultant who's helping us with this project. But that being said, we just invite the community to make sure to tune into the city's website, check that out. All the information's there, and we're looking forward to bringing the results of that survey back to this group here in October. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Anyone else? If not, a motion to adjourn this city council meeting is in order. Motion offered by Alderperson Marks. All in favor of adjourning, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We're adjourned, and we'll take just a moment to transition to the Committee of the Whole meeting. Microphones are off.
Good evening. I'd like to call this evening's Committee of the Whole meeting to order. We have all alderpersons in attendance this evening. Alderperson Ruby is attending remotely. Let's see. My name is Alderperson Anais Bowering, and I have the pleasure of representing the First Ward along with my counterpart, Mike Bruno. Let's see. So now we will move on to item 2, which is approving Committee of the Whole minutes from September 5th, 2023. Do I have a motion? Alderperson Bruno makes the motion. Seconded by Alderperson Paschke. Do we have any discussion or just go right to a?
After it's been
Okay.
moved and seconded, and then ask if there's any discussion.
Okay. Do we have any discussion on that? All right, then everyone in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right. Number 3 on our agenda is items of business. The first is to consider draft resolution authorizing the purchase of underground electrical cable and material through a Sourcewell contract from Wesco Annixter at an estimated cost of $1,550,658.23. Do I have a motion? So moved. Alderperson Marks makes the motion. Alderperson Mayer makes the second. Do we have an introduction for this? And sorry, I know we had a changeover. So Assistant Administrator McCready.
Before you is There we go. We're good. Before you is an item, consider a resolution authorizing the purchase of underground electric cable and materials through Wesco's Sourcewell contract. The materials and cable will be used for the 2023-2024 underground cable replacement program and the Old Kirk Road feeder project. Due to lead times and variances in prices, escalations could apply at the time of delivery, and we have Superintendent Holton in the audience with us tonight to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, hearing none. Should we do a roll call or just?
You can do a roll call.
Okay, fine, we'll do a roll call then. Do I say something specific to you? No. Okay, great. There we go.
Marks?
Aye.
Mayor? Aye. Paschke? Aye. Swanson?
Aye.
Bowering?
Aye.
Bruno?
Aye.
Ruby?
Ruby, aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
Kasserag?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Motion carried, unanimous. Moving on, our next item of business is item 3B, consider draft ordinance restating Title 9 for municipal utilities, Chapter 2, municipal electrical service, Article B, service rates and charges, Section 13, net metering policy of the Geneva City Code. Do I have a motion? Alderperson Kosarog.
Second.
Alderperson Bruno with the second. Do we have an introduction for this?
Yes. For your review and consideration are recommended changes to the net metering policy per direction given at the August 7th Committee of the Whole meeting. Residential and general service customers who own PV generating systems will be credited for excess generation at the applicable retail rate until such time that the total capacity of the interconnected generation system exceeds the threshold identified in the item. After that threshold is met, any new system will be credited at the avoided cost for excess generation. Systems connected prior to the threshold being met will remain on the current credit rate policy until 10 years after the initial interconnection date. And again, we have Superintendent Holton in the audience with us tonight, should you have any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the council? Alderperson Paschke.
No surprise here. And I am a solar customer, so just wanted to make that clear. I know we've had a lot of discussion around this already. Hopefully this doesn't drag on too long tonight. I'm curious, of the 37 existing solar customers, how many are not actually paying the fixed costs over the year? Because I know personally, my system is a 10 kilowatt system. We pay on average quite a bit over the fixed costs per month. So I'm curious if the discussion around this is about recouping fixed costs, and we're setting a bar that's fairly low at 1% of our total use. Are we actually needing to recoup those fixed costs from existing solar customers, or should we be looking at setting this higher?
To answer the first part of your question, I do not know. I'll have to look that up. As far as the second question, so where we're at right now is it's not a huge issue with the utility. But looking forward into the future, we want to set ourselves up for, as solar generation gets more widely adopted, that we have the groundwork laid to be able to recoup those fixed costs. The 1% was, we ran it a couple different ways. 2,000 kW installed capacity is roughly 1% of our energy consumption. It goes up from, it can go up and down from there. So, 4,000 is roughly 2, so on and so forth. So we landed on 2,000. That's about 250 roughly residential installations. And so we thought that would be a good starting point.
So I guess I'm curious then, if we're concerned about keeping our electric utility whole, which I agree we should absolutely be concerned about, the stated purpose of moving to avoided cost was to make sure we're getting those fixed costs, but we don't actually know if we're not getting those from current solar customers?
If you, well, hang on just a second. So the direction of the council was to credit all the customers, the interconnected customers, at the full retail rate. So when we do that, if you remember our discussions about fixed costs, we kind of recover the fixed cost in that first couple hundred kilowatt hours. So we can easily get into a situation where, as the number of PV units grow, where more and more customers, we're not recovering those fixed costs from all the customers, and those costs need to be spread out to the remaining customers.
I guess,
So the moving to the avoided costs avoids that situation, to where we're not completely, everybody's paying a little bit. There are going to be situations where, because we don't know what everybody's energy usage is, in your case, you use more energy evidently than your solar panels put out, and so you end up paying every month. That's one situation. We also have other situations where it's the opposite, and then we have everybody in between. So it's kind of, we kind of have to have an overall policy rather than try to craft it to affect just one or two individuals on this program.
okay, I guess I would just like to know that initial
Okay.
question
And I can,
about
and I can find that out.
how that, what that impact is, because if that's what we're looking to resolve through this, I feel like we should know what that is before we move forward with selecting a threshold like this. And if it really is about the solar customers affecting the rate for everyone else, we still need to know what that impact is.
Okay.
Anyone else? Alderperson Kilburg?
Thank you. I guess this is a legal question, and I'd ask our legal counsel to provide some advice as it relates to, since this is a small population of solar customers in Geneva, and the fact that we have alderpersons that are solar customers of the city or participants in the city's program, I'm wondering if this may be an issue that could provide us with some legal challenges into the future, and that these alderpersons, excuse me, should give some consideration to recusal, excuse me. I had consulted with your cohort previously in regard to this, and he thought that there might be some thought that should be given to that.
So I did not consult with my cohort previously, so I don't know what he said, but there's always I think there's always a tension that you have. The alder people are citizens of Geneva, and they have, every time they vote, in some regards, they're voting, they have sort of this built-in conflict because it affects them. They live in the same town as everybody else. That said, I think when you get to a point where you're really talking about, if you as an older person find that you are asking questions and are looking not in the sense of the broader community, but you're looking at your interests, and so you're not able to divorce your personal interests from the interest of the city, I think that's when you start to get close to, at that point you should recuse yourself, if you're not able to divorce yourself from those sorts of concerns. So if you're up here asking questions because you want to know the answer for yourself, then I would say, or you're voting for yourself as opposed to the community, I think that's where you cross the line. There are other times where it's more direct. So for example, if we were in a contracting situation or things like that, I think we would have a much stronger opinion. This one's in a gray area. I will check with, this isn't the best answer, it's the best I can do off the top of my head. I will check with my colleague, and I can research this and give you a definitive answer as to where we draw that line. Because there have been other instances where older persons it more directly impacts them than perhaps somebody just sitting on the council. And if we're going to identify exactly where that line is, then I need to research it to give you a more definitive answer.
I guess my only question was, we're all electric users. I mean, all of us have a electrical service. I'm just saying, since this is a fairly small population,
right,
How many solar do we have in the community? 20?
37.
37, okay. So again, I don't mean to be difficult, I'm just saying I'm trying to keep the city out of some potential legal ramifications that could evolve from this.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, I think if you're, one, at this point, it's recommending, and if we decide, what I can do, you can do a couple things we could do. We can continue the matter to a date certain, to the next committee of the whole meeting. I can give a definitive answer about the recusal issue. I'm just not prepared at this point, because in some regards, you could argue that the fact that we have folks that are PV users, that they have insights that perhaps the rest of you may not. And so that could be advantageous. At the same time, I feel the tension, even as I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, which way does this go? And I just don't have a strong answer for it. But I think I think that they're going to be able to answer questions, and part of what we want is a diverse group of elected folks that can bring different perspectives on, because of their life experiences. But exactly where we draw that line in this context, I'm just not prepared to say that they're out of order at this point. But I can let you know by the next meeting.
Thank you.
Alderperson Mayor?
So I lean a little towards the second part of that, where it was, they know, the people who have solar might have a deeper understanding of some of these issues. But for me, the issue tonight is that I'm not really clear on how this connects back to what we talked about before. It's not, I was hoping there might be some presentation of this is what we talked about, this is what we ended up with, because I find it all pretty abstract, the way that it's laid out in the packet. So maybe if we continue it, there can be more tie back to what we discussed before in the information.
So at the August 7th City Council meeting, we discussed, there was kind of two questions for this agenda item. One was, do we move to the avoided cost? The other one was, how do we handle our current interconnected PV users? Right now, everything is hand calculated because the accounting software can't do the way we do net metering.
Right.
So we wanted to move to an automated process where it can. And so that is where we have the scheme of crediting all the received power at the retail rate. So based on that direction, that's why,
what's in here.
that's what I brought this forward. The cutoff came because if you remember the previous one, we were just going to, as of November, everybody goes to it. And if you were previously connected, then you had some certain time frame before you transitioned to avoided cost. The cutoff came with us giving consideration of, okay, the city council wants to continue to incentivize rooftop PV, but at some point for the utility, we do need to transfer to a avoided cost model. And that's where we came up with the 2,000.
Okay.
So if the 2,000 is not the will of the city council, I can go back and look at other limits as well.
So, but what you responded with is that that's 1% of the total power consumption that we have? Is that?
Right.
And that's a momentary number, right? That's not.
No, that's over time.
That
So
is
that's over an entire year. 2,000 kW of interconnected PV would equal 1% of our historical energy consumption within the city.
So in this instance, we're saying if somebody that is a more considerable power user, we want to make sure that they're connecting with the avoided cost method of billing, so that we don't get
Right, so we don't get into a situation where we have a user who, they're still connected to the utility system. They're still relying on the grid to be there when their PV system's not working.
Right.
But they're avoiding for lack of a better word, they're avoiding that total fixed cost to run the utility.
Well, and that has helped me a lot to understand this issue,
Okay.
and I feel comfortable saying that this makes sense to do it this way, and that if our 37 existing customers are still incentivized positively to do solar, I think overall our last consensus was we liked that, and we want to encourage people to use solar.
Right, and we would have, based on the average system installation side, we would have room for up to 250 total.
Total
So another
customers, and
200
then that 251, no luck?
Yeah, it would be, there's the line in the sand.
Okay. I think that makes sense, and I hope that the solar panels become better and better to improve that, and that we become smarter and smarter about this. Thank you.
The attorney would like to clarify something.
So with regard to I had said that one option would be to continue to a date certain on the issue of potential conflicts. Another thing is to keep in mind is that you all are the recommending body. The final decision, the vote that matters is with the city council. So that instead of, if the consensus is this is the way you want to go, but you want to know that we've addressed all the conflicts, we can address that at the city council meeting, and we can give that opinion before the city council meeting.
So it doesn't go on the omnibus then, from here? Even if we vote unanimously, for instance, we would still get a discussion at the
Right.
city council?
Yes, and you can always pull things off the omnibus if you want, but if we thought there was an issue that precluded it because of a potential conflict, then we would recommend that it be put on, not be on the omnibus agenda to begin with.
Okay, great, that sounds very good.
So if you'll indulge me, I'd like to opine a few thoughts on this issue as well, but I'm open to hear anyone else first as well. So first of all, on the issue of fixed costs, I agree. I would very much like to see more data before we make a decision about where the threshold should be. I feel like this is kind of a stab in the dark, and I would much rather, I think it's wise to plan for an eventuality that might cause problems, but I'd like to understand where that eventuality actually is and not just kind of guess. So I think we have that data, and I think we could do that. I guess I want to point out also that while I think it's reasonable to make sure that we're covering fixed costs in aggregate, there are also fixed costs that are taken on by the solar customers. And so I think that it is a little bit of a slightly different area in terms of we're trying to incentivize this thing that takes extra work and extra effort and, in many cases, outlay of money at some point along the line to do this because we think it's a benefit to the community, a benefit that we are pursuing through policy. And I guess this relates back then in some ways to the question of conflict of interest. I'm certainly not an attorney, but I feel very strongly that the second part of that, as Alderperson Mayer pointed out, really resonates with me that, we do have a diversity of viewpoints here. I am not a current solar customer, but I have explored it and I would like to be one in the future. So I don't think that means that I'm not able to look beyond my own personal interests in terms of what I think makes sense for the city. I think I can weigh that, and the issues that made my situation not ideal for solar so far, are not going to apply across the board. But I guess, any of us could be solar customers in the future. And I think, as has been pointed out, we're all electric customers, we're all water customers. So I think, in my personal opinion, the conversation that we've had has been extremely grounded in what do we want to do at a policy level? What kinds of incentives are we willing to undertake? And how do we make sure that does not damage our electric utility, which is also something that we have a responsibility for. So I would welcome more legal insight into that as well. I will say that the thing that seems most urgent to me is to get away from the spreadsheet. So I wonder if it's worth exploring the idea of separating these two, if that's possible, so that we can move to the credit system, provided there aren't reservations about that amongst the committee. so that we take this big work pile off of our finance department and make their lives a little bit easier. So I wonder if we could separate those, if that's of any interest to the other members here. And then I guess, finally, I don't fully understand how this crediting system works, and I also was expecting to see a little more of this laid out in detail, either in the packet or in a presentation. So do you mind just taking us through how that actually works with the crediting system? It's going towards the, like, I don't.
Right, so, so on every interconnected customer's house, we have what we call a net meter. And that net meter has separate metering elements. One metering element meters the delivered power, so that's the power that the city delivers to the customer. And another metering element meters the power that we receive from the customer, so any excess that comes from the customer comes to us. Now, it's important to keep in mind that the customer lies between, or the customer's house lies between the PV panels and the inverter and the meter. So any load is going to get served from the solar panels to begin with, if during the day when the sun's out, so on and so forth. What we're proposing to do is we will pay the interconnected customers, well, we won't pay. We will credit the interconnected customers for that, any of that power that comes to us through that received meter element at the same rate that the customer is going to pay the city for the delivered. So right now we do a net. So we take the delivered minus received and we have a net, and we track that net energy. So we're going to do away with that net, and we're just going to do a simple, okay, you or the city delivered 1,000 kilowatt hours to you, and we received 300 back. So on the bill, there'll be a delivered and an amount, and then there'll be a received with a negative amount, and then that just mathematically works itself out. And if, in this case, it would be, you know, do the math in my head here real quick. It'd be about $100 delivered and $30 received, so it'd be a $70 bill. So that's how we're proposing to do that. And the accounting software, the customer or their billing software can handle that.
Okay, and so I think this was one of the questions in that packet, but so if say the amount received is greater than the amount that customer is then using in the rest of their utility bill, whether it's electric or water, then that can still stay in our system as a credit ongoing. It just can't be a credit for electric. Is that right?
Right. It is my understanding that, correct.
Okay. Okay.
So
All right.
if there was a credit on the bill for that month, but there was still a water balance, that credit would apply to the water balance.
Okay.
And then if it canceled everything out, it would just be a credit held on the account.
Okay. Thank you. Are there additional questions, comments?
No, that's what we're here for.
The only thing that then kind of jumped off the page at me is, aren't the water accounts and the electric accounts separate? And are we gonna get ourselves into an issue where we're taking electric and washing out?
That would really be a question for
Rita,
Finance
right?
Director
Yeah.
Cruz. It is my understanding that the utility billing accounts receivables is in the same silo, both water and electric, so it all goes into the same. So we're not going to run into an issue, is what I've been told.
Okay, thank you.
So if you need an answer deeper than that, it would have to come from Rita.
Alderperson Paschke.
I do like the idea of continuing this discussion in some way to a date certain so that we can get the information that several of us have asked for, to have the answers to those questions, and potentially to be presented with, just more information about what a different threshold would look like if we were to increase that threshold, as well as the answer about how many of the current customers are not meeting fixed costs over time. I know, I do appreciate Alderperson Bowering's idea of, wanting to take care of the finance part of this. So maybe decoupling these items, if we could do that.
If I may, I think that can be done, but I also think it makes it a little more confusing in updating the code, and sometimes it's just better to just hold off a little bit. If you're going to hold off on part, hold off on the rest. On the other, the rates versus this were two separate sections, but because this is all contained in the same section, I think that would just be a little more confusing.
Okay, then I guess I'll make a motion that we continue this discussion to a date certain.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have questions or comments on the new motion?
So, continuing to a date certain, we need a date certain.
Next meeting, next committee of the whole.
Oh, I won't.
Yeah,
Or-
we should be able to.
So that'd be October 2nd.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question.
Sorry, so do we need to specify a date certain
Yes.
before that we accept the motion?
So can we make it October 16th? No, is that the 16th? Is that the next one?
The 16th?
We do October 16th.
So the motion is to continue this discussion to a date certain of October 16th, the next committee of the whole meeting on that date. We have a motion and a second from, Kosarag. Great, okay, thank you. Now, any discussion on that motion?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, Alderperson Maladra.
I just want to be clear what we're asking staff to do. When we talked about this back in July, we emphasized the importance of having a trigger point. I think what we're asking you to do is demonstrate to us why you've chosen the trigger point that you have. If that's not correct, then, straighten me out. You guys are used to that. But I think that should be easily, okay, thanks.
Alderperson Mayor, then Kosarag.
It seemed that there was one other thing that we wanted straightened out, wasn't there?
That's what I was going to suggest. I feel like what we were talking about, and which I agree, was maybe demonstrating to us how the bill would work. I know it's simple. I heard you loud and clear, but maybe anybody watching or as a reference back that's considering that and goes further than just asking the question could see some sort of demonstration or presentation on the screen. I don't think it's difficult. I don't expect any real time on it, but just something that sort of lays it out visually, I think might be helpful.
Alderperson Bruno, did you have something?
Yes, I was thinking I wasn't going to be here, but I think I will be here on that date. But it seems like we can still move this forward. If we table it, or if we postpone or table to a date certain now, we still have several meetings to debate it. I guess there's not too much time pressure, but it seems like just voting on it today, and if we're not satisfied at City Council, we can table it then, is my thinking.
Alderperson Mayor?
I agree with that. I think we should move it forward and get the clarifications we need at that meeting, and hopefully we can answer all of that in one shot and vote on it and get this taken care of. Do we have to call the vote on the motion to? Oh, no, but what is our next action? The question that
Yeah, the question on the
raised.
floor is the motion to continue to a date certain of October 16th. So that needs to be. To the cow. That needs to be considered first. If it's defeated, then we'd go back to the main motion, which is to approve the ordinance as presented. And then that would be forwarded on to the city council, and that's, yeah, so that's it.
Okay.
If it
All
prevails.
right, then,
So I have a question. So the last time, I believe we did not continue to a date certain. We left it pretty open-ended because the cow was more informal, and I guess we weren't certain exactly how long it would take to, for the electric division to come back with the information. Is that also an option? So I guess I don't understand why we have to do a date certain. And I guess I would also like to point out that if Alderperson Paschke is not here on the 2nd, but is one of the people interested in hearing some of these changes, then I'm not sure that that is a great option. If we were to vote on it tonight and assume that it passed, and then be able to hear clarifying information at the next meeting, but some folks might not be here then.
I can answer the question. So procedurally, if it's not continued to a date certain and it's just left open, that's the same thing as voting it down. And so that's why we continue it to a date certain. It allows the matter. It doesn't mean it couldn't be brought back, but it would be defeated, and the no vote would still go to the council, right? Yeah, the no vote would still go to the council.
If it fails here, no.
No, okay. Then it would but it would be a no. It would be a,
So, and not to further complicate, but there's also the ability to vote it here on the cow to recommend approval or denial. And if you recommend approval, you can recommend approval, but say that you don't want it on the city council meeting until the 16th.
Is it procedurally possible, should the person making the motion feel that they wanted to do this, to amend the motion via a friendly amendment to that effect?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or they would just withdraw it?
they could withdraw the motion and everybody could sort of agree that it's a friendly defeat. Or you could just vote on it, make a nice clean record, vote it down, and then make a new motion so it's very clear to everybody what we're doing.
Okay.
That's all I know.
Okay, hearing no further discussion, seeing no further interest in comment, let's have a roll call on the motion. And just to clarify, the motion is to table this discussion to a date certain of October 16th Cal meeting.
So technically, tabling is not the correct term.
Sorry,
It's continuing.
my apologies.
Continue to a date certain.
Continue to a date certain,
Yes.
right, thank you. Tabling just is indefinite, yep. So with that caveat, do we feel ready to vote? Okay, roll call vote, please.
All right, Paschke,
Nay.
Swanson,
Nay.
Bowering,
Nay.
Bruno,
Nay.
Ruby,
Ruby, nay.
Kilberg,
Nay.
Katsarag,
Nay.
Maladra, Marks,
Nay.
Mayor.
Nay.
So the motion was defeated, and we're back to the main motion. Is there more discussion or comments? Alderperson Swanson.
Yeah, I think where we ended here was the request to vote now and approve it, subject to approving it a meeting after the next meeting. However, I wanted to point out that the key issue here is what should that threshold be? So based on the information we get, I think everyone should be prepared to perhaps amend what's proposed and change that 2,000 threshold to 3 or 4, just making that clear that seemed to me to be the sticking point where that threshold. Because at the end of the day, we do want to continue to encourage solar installations and not cut it off too early. So I just wanted to make that point. And do we need to make a motion to, if we approve this, it will come back 2 meetings hence, or is that just assumed that because we've talked about it?
I would make, to keep the record clear, I would make an amendment to the main motion that it is approved subject to it being heard on the date certain at the city council. So you pick that October 16th, which is October 16th. So you can make an amendment. If everybody's sort of generally in agreement with that, we can construe it as a friendly amendment, so we don't have to vote on it. And then we would just state the motion that it is approved subject to it being heard at the COW on October 16th.
At the council.
I'm sorry, at the council on October 16th, 2023. Thank you.
Alderperson Bruno?
I conferred with my calendar. I will not be here on the 16th, but I do trust the remainder of the council to lay this to rest. Thanks.
Alderperson Kosarog?
How is our agenda looking on October 16th? And are there issues that probably are going to take some time that night?
At this point, I don't have anything like that, but they fill up quickly. So, right, at this point, the only thing I have is international students introduction.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so it sounds like we have the suggestion of a friendly amendment to the motion, unless I hear objections from committee members. I suggest that we add that to the motion, and then I think there should be a roll call vote. Is there any other discussion? Okay. City Clerk, please take the roll.
All right. Kosarog?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
Marks?
Aye.
Mayor?
Aye.
Paschke?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Bowering?
Aye.
Bruno?
Aye.
Ruby?
Ruby, aye.
Kilberg?
Aye.
The motion carries, passed unanimously. We're moving on then to number 3C, consider draft ordinance proposing the continuation of special service area number 1 and providing for public hearing and other procedures. Do we have a motion? Kosarog, seconded by Marks. Do we have an introduction for this?
No introduction, but we do have Director Timoshenko.
I'm clicking. Double click. There she goes. Okay. I think so. No, I don't. This one? Yes. Thank you. So tonight we are proposing an ordinance for your consideration to continue SSA number 1, which is the funding source for downtown services. So just a quick overview. An SSA is a property taxing mechanism that allows for a wide range of special services in a physical geographical area as defined in the ordinance. So an SSA can do a long list of things, but really the categories can be broken down into support services, infrastructure improvements, land and building improvements. And I can give you more details about those if you want. There's a lot of things that you can really do there. It's a wide array of services. And why do we need an SSA in our downtown? The territory that makes up SSA 1, it's a unique, essential, principal commercial area within the city, our downtown, as we all like to call it affectionately. And it's in the public interest for us to continue to maintain and see this area thrive. And there's additional amenities in the downtown, actually public amenities, that are not found throughout the larger city. And the services provided by the SSA are a benefit to all the property owners, to the business owners, to our customers and visitors. So the SSA has a long history, goes back to being its first establishment in 1979. And that was to be able to provide free parking. Free parking is never free. There's a lot of cost to it. And in 1979, this was put into place so that properties could be acquired and continued maintenance, and the police could patrol it, and you can repair it, and all types of everything to do with our free parking that is provided. In 1988, another ordinance was passed to continue the SSA with the same purposes. Again, in 1997, the City Council approved the continuation of the extension, but this time more things were added, providing more landscaping and public seating. It widened out from just parking. So it's funded through a combination of property tax levy and bonding authority. And our SSA1 is not self-sustaining. It doesn't pay for all the services that are provided downtown. It requires an annual funding from the general fund transfer each year that the City Council looks at during the budget process. So the SSA, it excludes residential property and exempt properties. And that would be, churches, government buildings and land that we own, and also non-for-profit that have the exemption from the township assessor. So we are proposing a continuation, and we have a similar services proposed, but not identical. We'd like to add a little bit more. As we've talked about several times in this room, we have some refuse collection issues that we would like to work toward resolving. And there's also the recycling collection goals. And there are wayfinding signage needs that we see, streetscape improvements and lighting improvements. So the downtown streetscape now is really at its life expectancy, and it's over 20 years old, and it's really starting to show significant deterioration. We have two sides of the coin. We're very fortunate to have so many visitors, but, they're kind of rough on the area, and all of the festivals and the events and people coming, things are starting to look tired, and there's things that are breaking. So we are proposing a maximum levy of 0.7, and the levy amount will be determined by the City Council each year during the budget. So we're just building a maximum in there, and then you would decide whether that's needed once you look at the needs and other funding opportunities and what we're prioritizing as part of strategic plan and budgeting. So if the maximum rate is levied in the first year, it would generate about $375,000 in funding. The ordinance also contemplates the ability to issue bonds in an amount not to exceed $5 million, and that would help to fund some of the improvements that are needed to redo the streetscape. And it may also provide some funding opportunities for some goals that we've talked about for years and years that we have always had to put on the back burner because we can't find funding. And I'll talk about those more in the next slide. So the downtown streetscape, I'd just like to dive into that a little bit further. We do see a lot of significant deterioration. And over the years, we have looked to try to identify alternative funding sources, and which include grants also pursued for those projects. And this is just a little recap of the things that we've looked at. So some of the alternative funding sources proposed but not adopted include the business district. This was talked about for a few years, 2013 to 2015. And this was proposing a continuation of a business district that was already in place, and there was contemplation about the possibility of an additional sales tax that would be paid by visitors to help fund some of the amenities and services. That was not approved. There was also discussion about a places for eating tax in 2017, which would have been applicable to all the restaurants in the city, but it would have given us an opportunity to parcel some of that money off and pay for some of the services that we need in the downtown. Those were the funding sources that were discussed to kind of bolster up SSA1, and we did not move forward with those. But we have been very active in trying to pursue grants whenever we see them. And here's a kind of a summary of the grants that we've pursued. The Kane County Riverboat Grant, we submitted 3 different applications, 19, 21, and 22. They didn't have it in 20 due to COVID. And this is for the project that we've been trying to do with the courthouse kiosk, which the courthouse kiosk is very antiquated, it's very deteriorating, and we think it could be a better placemaking signage for our city. We've also tried to apply for tourism attraction and festival grants from the state. We submitted 2 different applications, one in 19, again, nothing in 20, and then in 21. And this, we tried to chase funds for the courthouse kiosk again, and also the French Market Pavilion, which has been a goal for several years. We were not funded. We also chased Illinois Rebuild Downtown and Main Streets grant in 2022, and we put all those projects together into one big project. We said, let us do the streetscape, let us do the pavilion, let us do the kiosk, and we felt like we wrote a terrific application, but we didn't get funded. We have tried to talk to the grant administrators for the Illinois state programs, saying, you know, is it us? What is going on? Are we writing these wrong? And really what our issue is that we cannot score because we have higher incomes in Geneva, and we also have a very successful commercial district which generates a lot of tax. So we don't get the scores, the points that a lot of other cities get that are more distressed. So we're coming in it and we lose, like, you know, it depends on the program, but we're already like an underdog applicant because we've lost points right off the bat. So that's just, we will continue to pursue them, but that's the reality about grants for these types of projects. We did successfully receive an announcement that we are going to get the CMAP RTA Technical Assistance Grant, and what this will allow us to work with a professional to try to see if there's any other funding sources that perhaps we could use in combination with the SSA, maybe a second SSA, or, you know, what exactly would they recommend that we do? Kind of a fresh eyes to help us see if there's anything. We were hoping that we were going to be able to do this work prior to coming to this point of renewal, but it is a very slow process. And our RFP has not even been released yet. So when we do this work, if an alternative funding source is identified, and if we could pursue that successfully, then that could be taken into your consideration when you look at the SSA levy every year and or a bond request. So we can kind of wrap it all together if it should be successful and come to fruition. I have some pictures for you to kind of show you what we're seeing in the downtown. There's areas where sidewalks need to be repaired. This is in front of the courthouse. You've got like a little ponding that always occurs. We see this in a few different places. We have our bricks starting to really need to be pulled up and replaced. We're doing some of that, but we really need to do it on a wider scale. You know, we're doing things on a very piecemeal way, but we need to do a more comprehensive approach and facelift. We have curbs that are breaking. We have Wayfair signage that's faded, that needs to be repaired. The poles are in bad shape. We have garbage receptacles that are broken, the rungs are broken, the tops are broken, and it also seems like they're too small, even with the new additional pickups. These are probably need to be bigger, they probably need to be different. We've got these big old ashtrays on top that are icky. You know, do we maybe want to change the kind of more modern receptacle? We have some directory signs that are really kind of out of fashion, being that we have changed a lot of our directory to our new electronic Explore Geneva map. We have a QR code. We encourage people, people want to do it on their phone. There's very rarely that we see people really, looking at a directory of a mall anymore. You're just looking on your phone. So these directory signs, they've also have great wear and tear. They pond water and snow on top. And then the kiosk, which is just kind of there and not really looking so great. That's our Explore Geneva map that we've made that you can scan and get up on your phone. We try to promote that there, but we think there's a better way to utilize this as more of a placemaking kiosk. I'm standing here, what am I looking at? This courthouse building, what am I looking at over here? We could do something so much more exciting there. So as far as the boundaries of the SSA, the proposed renewal, they're very similar but not identical, and we have some circles on the map to show you the changes. We're proposing to add some important development sites to the SSA. On the top, we have the Citron site, which hopefully will be redeveloped soon. East of the river, we're adding the city parking lots because we provide service to those, but they're just not in the SSA. Going down on the map, we have a circle that's blank. Those are residential properties that we're taking out. They shouldn't have been in. And then on the bottom of the map, that's adding the Duke and Lee's site, which is a redevelopment site, and also some of the properties that front 31 there. So it's not major changes. The major change that you see to the jaggedy border has to do with the way that the SSA laws have changed with respect to residential. So the city used to put all the residential in and then exempt it, but that's no longer what you should be doing in SSAs. You should just try to avoid them. So we've got this jaggedy line where we're going up and down. We will have exclusions, like I said earlier, for certain tax code properties that are residential and exempt. So the ordinance that's for your consideration this evening will progress if it's the will of this body to progress it to the city council, and then at that time you will be setting the date and time for the public hearing and authorizing notification to go into the newspaper and also by U.S. mail to the property owners. And there's also wait periods built into the ordinance. So we would wait 60 days between the adoption of the proposed ordinance and the public hearing. We would propose the public hearing date to be December 4th, 2023. And at that time, if there were no objections filed, then we would be adopting the ordinance to create the district. Objections can be submitted within 60 days following the adjournment of the public hearing. And if at least 51% of the electors residing in the area and at least 51% of the owners object, then you shall not continue the SSA. And that's it. So if anybody has any questions or comments, be glad to entertain them.
Alderperson Bruno, followed by Alderperson Mayer.
Thank you. More of a statement. One of the great regrets is we couldn't get a downtown business district over the finish line those years back. I've even had merchants who oppose that say, can we do such and such? And I have to reply, you mean like we could have done with the downtown business district? Given our history, I don't know if things would be different, but this, I think this has the best likelihood of achieving what we want. So I'm for it. Thanks.
Alderperson Mayer.
So if 51% of the electors, and we've reduced it down to be just the businesses now and not the residences.
There's some residents within, let me go back to the map. So what we did was along the edges, we took the residential out because we didn't want to include them anyway. So if you're able to just kind of drop them off the edge, that's what we did. But there's still residentially zoned property within the boundaries, so.
So they still have to do they have to get the exclusion on their taxes or.
So what we did is that we wrote the ordinance so that people with the tax code that coincides with residential would not be included.
Okay. So if somebody opens a business in their residence, then they would get included?
It would depend on how the assessor viewed the business. So if the assessor changed their code, then they would be. And it's probably likely that they would. I mean, it depends. There's so many home-based businesses now. It depends on the nature of it. If you kind of hung a shingle and maybe you were an architect and you may tilt that scale, but it's really up to the assessor. And that's why we thought it was best that we tied our determination with the assessor instead of trying to figure it out, and we don't want to have conflicts with anybody.
So as far as who comprises the 100% of the electors, can you go to the other slide?
Sure.
If there's an objection by at least 51% of the electors, does that
And at least 50%, 1% of the owners of record, so you have to have both.
Okay. How much is their current rate for SSA 1?
It's 0.3.
So we're saying it can go up to a maximum of 0.7, but we have to approve it each year on the budget review
Right,
process.
so just on the history, in 1979, it was 0.6%, and then at some point it was 0.3%. And then we're setting the maximums so
Right.
that you have that flexibility, so, and it can change every year, as long as you don't exceed that maximum. If at some point you decide you need to exceed that maximum, it would require all of the same notice.
And it's entirely based on a percentage of their property value. So it's tagged to their property tax, not
Correct.
their sales tax. Okay, all right, thank you.
Alderperson Kosarog.
Did you want to say something, Stephanie?
I was just going to say one thing in regards to what Alderperson Bruno said. By enacting or continuing the SSA, it's not precluding us still doing research and finding other funding sources. So again, that's the important part about setting the maximums, because much like a backup SSA that we do for a lot of new developments, there are years that we don't levy anything. So there's always those options. So again, we're just trying to make sure we have something in place until we truly know what our big expenses are and how we're going to fund those.
Thank you. My question was going to be about, I think you said $325,000 would be if we taxed at 0.7 right now.
Yes.
That would be our annual. So how many in dollars is that from what we're doing now with the 0.3%?
Right now, our dollar amount that we've been levying is $177,000.
Okay.
So again, when we levy, we look at the dollar amount less than the percentage, if that makes sense. So I think that's right at 0.3, the 177.
That makes sense. Is there a plan for the downtown rehabilitation, or we're figuring out how to fund something that's yet to be developed?
When we applied for the Rebuild Illinois grant, we worked to try to put together some bones of a plan, and we're talking about doing a big refresh, new wayfinding signage, and we had several categories, but we did not determine what that would be because we think that would be, a public involvement. We would get stakeholders interested. But we've identified, I think, enough of the problems to understand that it needs a larger approach than just what we've been doing. So we're not planning to do a major changes, but we would like to have an opportunity to do it in a large-scale approach and to correct some antiquated things. I think along the way, probably people will want to talk about other goals, and you'll have to determine whether or not those get folded in or not.
Kathleen, if I can interrupt a second, can you minimize this so that we can see Becky on the screen?
I'm sorry.
So she can be included
Yes.
in the conversation?
I'm sorry.
Try escaping.
I'm trying to find the thing she showed me before. Not that. I blow up the whole thing. I didn't see that same icon. Thank you. Do you still want it up on the computer or no? No, I think it's fine. Thank you.
Okay, not seeing any other questions at the moment. I have a few. How much is usually transferred from the regular, sorry, I forget which part of the budget.
General fund?
General fund?
So this current budget year, $129,625.
So we are expecting that at the maximum, we would likely year to year at least be able to make all of the expenditures that we're currently making, but it sounds like that doesn't necessarily leave a lot of room for kind of bigger undertakings, which is also part of this. But so is that more from the bond authority?
Right, so there's two parts of your SSA levy. So there's the general levy, which is the 0.7%. And then if we were to issue a bond, the debt service levy is separate from that 0.7. It's not included in the 0.7. It's levied separately.
Okay.
So again, but that's a future discussion, but this ordinance would again set those maximums. And right now, we're suggesting a maximum of 5 million would be bonded. But that could be, if we find grant funding or whatever, it could be $1 million, it could be no bonding, or it could be a max of. And the bonds, if you do bond, they have to be paid within 20 years.
Forgive my ignorance, still learning things. Do we have any business districts, or this would have been the first when it was contemplated but not passed?
So we used to have 3 business districts. We had one in the downtown area, one in Avril for the business park, and then we had one at the Commons. Those all expired, and we the city worked to renew the downtown business district unsuccessfully, but did not work to renew the others, as those do not have as intensive services as the downtown.
Okay. Thank you. And then I am a little bit confused about the timing of the public hearing. So if we adopted the resolution, that starts the process for a public hearing, and the public hearing, but then, like, what is our legal action after the public hearing?
We could take action after the public hearing, should we not have objections.
So what'll happen is tonight's the COW discussion, assuming the council wants to move forward with this, at the next city council meeting, this ordinance would be passed, which sets the public hearing and sets the parameters. So that's what, we actually publish, the ordinance you saw in your packet, it showed what the notice would look like that goes in the paper. We would send out the notice by mail to everybody that's affected. We would also note in that notice, we would also state in that notice for those properties that are residential or exempt properties, we would make sure that their notice identifies that so that they're not, don't get concerned that all of a sudden they're going to have this new tax. So then you have 60 days from when you pass this proposed ordinance before the public hearing. So that public hearing, December 4th, is 60 plus days. You would have the public hearing. That evening, you can pass the ordinance. If you want to make amendments to it, you can. But then there's a 60-day wait period for that 51% of electors and 51% of property owners. If that threshold, if no petition is filed, the ordinance goes into effect. If a petition is filed, the ordinance doesn't. And there's no further action, really, one way or the other, in enacting or not enacting the ordinance. It all is dependent upon whether or not a petition is filed.
Okay, thank you. That cleared things up for me. So along with Alderperson Bruno, I'm very much in favor of this. I think that our downtown, we need to maintain it, and I think this sounds like the right way to start doing that. I will say I think it's also a shame that there's not a business district, if that would give us more options. So I'd be, for one, interested in exploring that down the line if there was other general interest amongst this body. Any other questions, comments? Alderperson Paschke?
I believe I've heard this explained to me before, but would the SSA be able to build public restrooms, or is that limited to a business district?
I don't think that we wrote, I think you could, but I don't think we wrote the ordinance to provide for that.
Okay. I'd also like to see a business district, but I'm in favor of moving this forward as well.
We actually we put language in there that says including but not limited to. So therefore, if it is an amenity or an infrastructure or an improvement that we feel benefits that area that's not generally provided elsewhere in the city, then that would be an allowable expense.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no other comments or questions, do you recommend roll call on this?
Yeah.
Yep, okay. City Clerk?
Okay. Kasserag?
Aye.
Maladra?
Aye.
Marks?
Aye.
Bayer?
Aye.
Paschke?
Aye.
Swanson?
Aye.
Bowering?
Aye.
Bruno?
Aye.
Ruby?
Ruby, aye.
Hilberg?
Aye.
The motion carries, passed unanimously. We are now at public comment. I don't see any public with us. So then moving on to item 5, new business. Do we have any new business from, Stephanie, please go ahead.
So, as you may have noticed, I was late this evening, for a very good reason, I would say. I did attend the Park District Board meeting this evening, where they were considering our request for an extension to TIF 2. There was good discussion. It was a unanimous vote of support. So we should be getting a letter from them by the end of the week. I would note, thank you to those of you who submitted letters. They did, those were distributed to the board. They had all received those letters from the alderpersons and the mayor. There was a comment that they hoped that the other taxing bodies would see the benefit in this and would also provide their letters of support, so I encouraged them as well to reach out to any of their counterparts that they had in other taxing bodies. I would like to say also they were very appreciative of the relationship that the city and the Park District share and how we work well together. They're super appreciative of our land cash ordinance. So again, I think it was a very good conversation, and so I'm pleased to report that, so that now we have a letter from the county and we have a letter from the Park District, and so we are working kind of our way through the various board meetings.
Thank you. Any other new business? Alderperson Kilberg.
I attended the meeting tonight on Randall Road at the Government Center regarding the Department of Natural Resources and the removal of the dams along the Fox River 9. There was an incredible attendance. There was probably over 500 people that attended. Again, this is something I think that is closer to becoming a reality as it relates to the funding. The removal of the dam, just the construction or demolition piece as it relates to Geneva would be $1.45 million. And there are benefits associated with the removal of the dams, obviously. And I think it will be important that we continue to follow developments as the discussion progresses. There are a couple other meetings, I believe, that are coming up in the near future, too, and they can be found, I think, at the Kane County website.
Thank you. Anything else? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Excellent.